Welcome to the Wellness League podcast. I'm your host Ella, and today my friend is Lana from Live and Breathe Active. Lana is an incredible human and an amazing athlete, and also the owner of Live and Breathe Active, also known as our sponsor. So, let's dive into part 1 of the season final. Alrighty, let's get started. So, firstly, who are you?
Hello, I am Lana. I am the owner of Live and Breathe Active with my husband. I also identify as a mother and an athlete, and do my best to juggle all of those fun things that everyone else is also juggling.
Yeah, so good. That you do it so well. We met, as we said, just over 4 years ago because I reached out for you to do all my merch for my bootcamp business, and then we've just kept in contact since.
Yeah, it's the same. Crazy that it's been like 4 years. Lost some samples. Yeah, it's crazy that it's been like 4 years. Time flies when you're having fun and keeping busy.
Absolutely. So what's your earliest memory of being fit?
When I saw this question, and I've heard you ask it before as well, it's a really interesting question to me because, to be completely honest, aside from maybe 2 times in my life, I don't think I've ever felt fit. And I think so much of that is around like this almost body dysmorphia, body comparison around like who's fit and what fit looks like and everything. And I've never felt like I've really been that.
Yeah.
But in kind of thinking about your question, like, I think my earliest memory of, I suppose, feeling good in sport, I suppose, like feeling great in sport was when I was in about year 4. We were living in Western Australia. We lived in Perth for a couple of years, and I was in a little swim squad over there. So what I must have been like 10 or something. And we had the swimming carnival, and I did really well, and it felt great to do really well. And, swimming carnivals, you collect all the ribbons, and it's just kind of my first memory, I suppose, of working hard towards something and then like achieving off the back of that.
Yeah.
So that's certainly my first memory of that kind of, I suppose, working hard and feeling good off the back of that. But otherwise, I reckon there's only 2 times in my life I felt truly fit. And that was when I was like at the peak of my swimming career when I was like 17, and when I was going into Ironman Cairns. They're probably the only times I've really felt properly fit.
Yeah, I just love that question. Everybody that I've asked, as you've probably heard, that gives such a different view of what fit means. And like it can be back to when you were super young, but even some people are like, I didn't even feel that till I was older. But it just is such an ice-breaking question that really dives deep into how people started their journey along like fitness and sport, really.
Like, I was a swimmer. I've always been a swimmer. So definitely that, memory around the pool and swimming carnivals and everything is strong. Lots of black line swimming.
When did that start? And when did you start training seriously for swimming?
I remember when I was in year 5, we moved back to Sydney, and I was swimming with Carlisle, which is at the time especially, it was quite a big local swim squad. And to move up to the next kind of squad, the gold, performance squad, I suppose. And, I was 10 or 11. I had to train 7 times a week. And I remembered saying to Mum at the time, like, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready to do that. I've got other things that I want to do. I don't just want to swim 7 times a week, because that's mornings and nights. And when you're like in year 5, that's a lot. I suppose I didn't end up sticking with Carlisle. I moved to my school squad. So I went to a very little private school on the Northern Beaches here called Pittwater House. I joined, there was a coach running out of there, like that was separate to the school, out of a school pool. And it was a very small squad, basically like his son and some of his son's friends. Like they were, just missing out on, Australian like Olympic selection essentially. So they were very, very, very good swimmers. and they just never quite, got into that Australian team, but they were always very close. They were all guys that were about, there's what, sorry?
I said swimming is so competitive. Like we were saying, I think, did you listen to the episode with Michaela and just saying like swimming and qualifying teams?
I haven't listened to that one yet.
But anyway, she was saying getting into these teams comes down to like 0.01 of a second. Like that's how tight it can be between making a team and becoming like 4th or 5th place.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it was quite cool to be training with these older guys. They were all about 5 years older than me. And I had a couple of friends who were the same age as me, girls that were swimming with me as well. So we had this little like girl gang of training of 4 of us girls. And I know by the time I probably got into year 7, I was then training like 9 times a week, just swimming plus some strength sessions. So I was, morning and night kind of, I had Monday mornings off, but I did morning and night kind of Tuesday to Friday. And then we also had a Saturday session, or we had like competition on Saturday plus some strength sessions. But it was really good for me because I would get up and training wasn't till 6, so that's quite late for swimming. So I could my mum would drop me off at 6 to the pool at school, train for a couple of hours, get up, get out of the pool, shower, go up, have breakfast at school, do school. Then I'd stay at school in the afternoon. Mum would bring some like afternoon tea snacks, and I'd do my homework, and then I'd train again from I think 5 till 7, and then go home, rinse and repeat. I kind of, that was my high school. As it got kind of older, and I was like 15, 16 and competing at the kind of national level, I was also napping at lunchtime.
Sounds like you need it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a lot, like balancing that amount of training and also school, like an HSC and everything. And I was still playing a bit of water polo, and kind of up until I was probably 14, I was still playing water polo and did surf life saving, and I think I played netball in year 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So yeah, we always did a lot. But yeah, I kind of ended up specializing into swimming. But I mean, it's hard. Like the reality for me as a swimmer is that I'm 5'4". Like I was never going to make it as a swimmer competitively. And I'm not Libby Lenton, who was 5'4" or 5'5", but she was built. Like she was so strong. She was a butterflyer as well. I was a butterflyer. I was 50-meter and 100-meter butterflyer.
Yeah.
And I could never build muscle like she could. I did strength stuff a couple of times a week, and you wouldn't even know it, to be honest. I was so not strong looking ever. And my coach wanted me to there was this kind of not secret, but the team were trying to get me to be able to do a chin up. And so we just work on me being able to do a chin up, and I never got there. My weight to strength is just not there. But it was a really cool part of my life, and definitely set me up with some good discipline and everything, fitting everything in for school and swimming and sport and everything. Kept me out of trouble as a teenager too, because I was so worried about swimming that I wasn't going out or anything. And I think one thing I'm really grateful for is that my mum never, my parents never pushed me. They never forced me to go to training. In fact, my mum used to make me get up early to make her a cup of coffee before she got up, and I had to wake her up with a cup of coffee if I wanted to go to swimming training in the morning. And honestly, then she started to tell me that I wasn't making it right in the morning.
Okay, that is a pretty good deal. If you want the lift, that's the least you could do.
That's what I figured, and it did mean that and my parents always said to me, if you want to stop, this is all on you. You are deciding to do this. You choose. They never pushed me. They absolutely supported me 100% and would, take me anywhere and help me with anything. And, they got me the ridiculous speed suits. That was the era of the long ones too.
Yeah.
So, they absolutely supported me 100%, but it was up to me if I wanted to.
So when you finished school,
it was good discipline.
When you finished school, is that naturally when you ended swimming, or did you keep going?
I kept going for a little bit, but it was more when I started uni.
Yeah.
I kind of got to the point where I went to Sydney Uni, and I live on the Northern Beaches in Sydney. It's like an hour commute into Sydney, and I wanted to keep going, but it was a ridiculous goal I had left, which was to make semi-finals of the Australian champs. So I wanted to essentially qualify kind of top 16. And I was a long way off that. Like, I was making times to compete in the Olympic trials and like the Open Nationals at, I wasn't at that kind of top 20.
Yeah.
So it would have been a lot of work to get there. And the main reason that I wanted that was because I wanted to be on TV. So that was a ridiculous reason. So I decided I wasn't going to keep swimming just to maybe make it on TV.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many other ways you could have got on TV.
Exactly.
Like out of keeping such a routine and pushing for that, striving for that goal, do you feel like that's kind of helped you reflect in life into other goals and in business too?
Absolutely. Like, I'm a real goal setter, and I really love kind of setting the goal and breaking it down and being like, right, this is this big ridiculous goal we have up here, and that is so far away and terrifying. And the only way to get there is to take these teeny tiny steps every single day. And, knowing that kind of every little decision you make does have an impact. So just making a series of really good decisions, and almost being patient and knowing that you're not going to get, you're not, just because you trained 9 sessions last week doesn't mean you're going to have a faster time the week after. Like, you need months and months and months and years and years and years of that under your belt to see like results.
Yeah.
Like, on an athlete perspective, like, I'm so stoked as a triathlete now for the background I have in swimming, because like swimming comes easy to me now because I've just spent so long doing it. If I'm dropping a session in training when I'm training for tri, it'll always be a swim, because like I know I can swim twice a week and it'll get me fit enough to be kind of comfortable in the swim leg and be out at the pointy end of the swim.
So it's like
I need to save all my bickies for everything else.
Such a strong foundation that you had growing up. So pretty much like the slab of a house, and then the bricks are where the cycling and the running come into.
Yeah, we're still building those bricks.
Tell me I design houses without telling me. So from your swimming career kind of ending, once you decided you didn't want to reach that goal anymore, what point did you start running and cycling then and transitioning into triathlon?
Well, I kind of fell into triathlon accidentally. So when I finished, I know it sounds strange, but like I finished school, went to Sydney Uni, being kind of pretty, training as much as I did through school. I didn't want to lose that when I left swimming competitively. So I still swam a bit here and there, but I decided that I wanted a new goal. And so I decided to sign up for the Oxfam Trail Walker. So it's a 100K foot race.
Wow.
And I was 18, man. In hindsight, I really shouldn't have done that so young, because honestly, where do you go from there? Like, when you finish like a 24-hour race, like, then what?
Yeah, what's the next step?
Because that's cute. Exactly. How are you going to get that dopamine hit after that? Because that is actually legitimately what I've been chasing ever since. But yeah, so I kind of finished that and I started training. You have to do it, as a team of 4, and you have to stay together. So you're a team, and the whole idea is it's based off the Hong Kong Gurkhas, who are the like army, and they it's in the bush, so it's this off-road thing through from Barara in Sydney to Manly, and it's all through the Great North Walk, and you've got 48 hours to finish. Our team took like I think 25 hours the first time, maybe 24 hours the first time and 25 hours the second time.
What pace were you holding for everybody?
Kind of the funny thing is walking. We were walking. It was funny. So the first time I did it with my boyfriend at the time, and then his mate who was actually in the Army Reserves, and then another guy that we knew who was like fit, but he was he had this travel show on the ABC, so he was doing a lot of travel.
Okay.
Anyway, you've got a support crew, so he wasn't training that much, but he was a fit young guy. Anyway, so you have to have a support crew, and my dad and my stepmom were our support crew, because my stepmom actually used to be like the organizer for the Oxfam Trail Walker, and my dad and stepmom had done them a heap of times. So like they knew endurance sport, they knew what you needed. Yeah. And I was just so grateful to them, because like I don't like banana bread. But when we came into that 80K checkpoint and they handed me some warm banana bread and a chai latte, I didn't realize like how amazing this is and how much I needed it. I remember like, because we walked through the night and it was kind of drizzling the whole time. So you got your head torches and you're in the bush, and the whole team. So it was 3 guys and me. And my boyfriend at the time, we got to 20Ks and we'd done like 60K training walks. We got to 20Ks and he's like, I don't think I can do this.
Oh no.
And I was like, what? You're doing this. Like, we're doing this. Like, you are not backing out at this point, because you don't get an official finish time unless you all finish together.
God.
So I'm like, we're finishing all together. Anyway, we picked him up and dusted him off and convinced him to keep going. And then the guy who was in the Army Reserves, his strategy was he had this like mini Discman, which makes it sound like it was a long time ago, but it wasn't. It was like old technology for then.
Yeah.
And it broke. And he honestly, that broke him. He was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't have my mini Discman. I don't think I can go on. And I was just like, are you joking me? Like, you're in the Army Reserves. Like, you know how to hike. Like, all you need to do is hike. We can sing if you need. Anyway, someone got an iPod and gave it to him, and that was fine. He had his music. And then the poor guy who had been traveling a lot for work, it was like my dad would come into the checkpoint and he would be dragging behind because he was in a world of pain from like 40K. And my dad would just like give him all the Nurofen and all the food and all the Voltaren on his legs and just like get him kind of patched up. Yeah. And then would, tross us off out of the checkpoint, and he would be feeling amazing and he'd be like, woo, guys, let's go. We got 10K. We can do this. And about 8K, 2K before the next checkpoint, he's like, go on without me. Just, it's fine. Leave me behind. So yeah, like it was quite an experience. The guy, one of the guys started hallucinating.
Wow.
And he was walking and I was right behind him, and he kept like ducking. What's going on? And he's like, the trees, man, they're swinging at me. And I'm like, okay, maybe you go to the back for a little while. Actually, not the very back, like, in the middle of everyone. Yeah. Anyway, I started crying, just uncontrollably sobbing at about 80K in the dark. We were walking out of, it was, we'd just been walking all night, and I was exhausted and tired, and we hadn't slept, and I just started crying, just like silently sobbing. Yeah. And we had to get up this big hill, and all the guys were ahead of me, and they were up at the hill like, come on, Lana, you can do it, you can do it. So I get up there, and they see that I'm crying. And obviously, like, the guy that was my boyfriend, he was fine with it. But the other 2 guys were like, they're like 18, 19-year-old boys. They don't know what to do with a crying girl. They're like, well done. Like, you can do this. Like, slapping me on the back. Like, oh, God, like, what do we do with this crying girl? But anyway, all I needed was a egg and bacon roll. So I had an egg and bacon roll at the checkpoint, and everything was good again.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a very long story, but it was super cool. Oxfam Trail Walker was super cool. I did it twice, and I'd love to do it again and run it, but, one day.
Do you feel like...
So anyway, I started doing that out of school.
Do you feel like the second time was better because you knew what was ahead of you? Or was it even harder?
The second time was different. We had different themes. Well, it was the same course but opposite.
Okay.
Which makes a difference. And I had a totally different team. Again, boyfriend at the time, both of these guys didn't end up with. And I think, to be honest, it was a bit of a boyfriend test and they didn't pass muster. So, yeah, it was just different. And the second time around, the team was really different. The course was different. Yeah, it was just different. But equally you know, that sense of achievement when you've walked all night and you haven't slept and you've done this.
Yeah.
Like, that is, it honestly is second to none. And I think I really haven't had that on anything except for like my Ironman. So I'm, you know, still chasing that. It's stupid. I just shouldn't have done it so early.
Yeah. What was, so from there, how did you find your next dopamine hit?
Well, so I started work, like, so once that was kind of through uni that I did that. Yep. And then when I started work, I was working in the city and I was riding to and from work. And I was sometimes doing like a run at work, and sometimes I'd like run to the ferry, which was like a 10K run, and then get the ferry to work. And I'd sometimes swim on my way home at like the North Sydney pool when I'm riding. Like, I was kind of accidentally trained for a triathlon.
Yeah.
I was doing a bit of running because we were climbing. My dad took us to all my siblings. I'm one of 4 kids, to climb Mont Blanc. So 10 years prior, we had this like amazing 3-month time in Europe when like my parents took us out of school. We were taken out of school and we went to Chamonix with my dad. We saw all these hikers going off to climb Mont Blanc, and we said, in 10 years time, we're coming back and we're going to climb Mont Blanc. And kind of 10 years rolled around and Dad's like, well, let's do it. And so, you know, we're not hikers, like, we're not, you know, mountaineers. And, you know, that was a super cool experience. So I was doing a bit of running to get me fit for that. And then, riding to and from work. So I was kind of doing all these things. And then my dad, he always, you know, he did years and years of Ironman triathlon, and my stepmom ran the Comrades marathon in South Africa. And, you know, they've done all these amazing things like endurance sport stuff. And so he said to me, hey, Lana, I've got this really good idea. Let's do this race together. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, nervously. And he's like, okay, it's fine. I think he actually made me do a marathon with him beforehand. But anyway, he said, was like, okay, well, it's a 1.5K swim. And I'm like, okay. 30K bike ride. I'm like, I can do that. And a 10K run. And I'm like, what's the catch? Because that doesn't sound like something you would do. He's like, well, it's off-road. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, we mountain bike and we trail run. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. And he's like, and it's in Rotorua. And I'm like, cool. Trip to New Zealand. How good's this? Yeah. I was busy working and being like a 20-something-year-old, you know, early 20s, and living my best life. So I didn't really have the chance to get out on the mountain bike trails at all. Right. In training. And my dad actually broke his hand coming off mountain biking in the lead up to it. Oh, geez. So then I'm like, well, I don't really want to go on the mountain bike trails if you've broken your hand and you're much better than me. So why would I? No, I just don't want to do it. And it kind of got to the point where I'm like, well, how hard can it be? Like, how hard can mountain biking be?
How far are like mountain
It's a race. Surely it can't be that technical.
Yeah. So if you were to train, how far away are like
embarrassingly close?
Okay.
Close. I could have. I absolutely could have. And I kind of got to the point where I decided that ignorance is bliss. That if I knew what I was actually getting myself into, I wouldn't do it and I'd be too scared. So I just decided to do it.
Yeah, that's the best way.
So anyway, we go over to Rotorua. Well, I mean, as you'll hear, it wasn't. But anyway, it was fun. It was an adventure. But yeah, we get over to Rotorua. We like get our, unpack our bikes and get everything ready. Like, I had a mountain bike. It was a hardtail though. Yeah. And, you know, we go and check out the trails just to see what we're kind of in for. And we rode a little bit. And I'm like, this isn't too bad. Like, we can do this. It was basically fire trail. We're like, okay, we've got this. Yeah. We go to the bike shop and we like check on which tires we should have, like get some local knowledge. And we're like, how technical are the trails? And he's like, pretty technical. We're like, I don't know. We rode a bit of it. He's like, where did you get to? And we kind of showed him, and he's like, you didn't get onto the trails. And we're like, okay. So we're like, well, it's tomorrow. We'll just, off we go. And so my dad is watching on the sidelines because he's broken his hand. Me and my stepmom like line up. We're like, okay, off we go. The swim is in the Blue Lake and it's quite cold and deep. And I was terrified. Even though I do heaps of swimming in the ocean, lakes are really foreign to me.
So
and the
different.
freshwater freaked me out. So different. And it was like the deep blue. Like, what is in here?
Yeah.
So I swam so fast because I was so scared. I'm like, just get me out of here. So I was first female out of the water. I think I was 8th overall out of the water, terrified. And then get on the bike, and my dad's like moving everyone out of the way, getting photos, and really proud and everything. And I get onto the mountain bike trails, get through the fire road that we'd ridden on. I'm like, we're good, we're good. And then we turn up the hill, and it is just technical switchbacks whole way up. And I am like, I should not be here. This is dangerous. And because I'm such a good swimmer and I was at the front, like, I am not exaggerating when I say the entire field passed me, like everyone. The relay guys were coming past me because I was just so far out of my depth. And like, so like on the downhill, I was so scared because it's rough, and there's one race photo of me on the bike, and there's this jump. And like, if you've never been on a mountain bike and you're coming down this trail and there's a jump and there's this photographer there, and I'm literally, the fear on my face is perfection. Yeah. Anyway, I've never been so happy to get off the bike in my life. Currently, Dad, luckily my stepmom Elizabeth caught up to me because, you know, everyone did. She rode with me and kind of talked me through stuff, which was great. I think I took 3 hours on that bike course. Like, the pros finished the entire course in well under 3 hours, like everything. And I'm like taking 3 hours just to get through this bike ride. And anyway, I've been so happy. My dad was like, the first bikes apparently were coming in, and he was telling everyone to move out of the way because his daughter was winning. And then he had to wait for everyone to come in. And he was actually starting to get so worried because we were taking so long. Anyway, I ran and I had a great run, and I didn't end up being total dead last because I ran quite well, because I barely used up any energy on the bike because I was just like so scared and slow. So I actually had a really good run. And despite it, I mean, it took me quite a long time after that race to decide to do another triathlon, but it wasn't an off-road one. The next one was a 70.3, or like, you know, I was aiming towards a 70.3.
You told me that story was going to be good, but that literally was like 100 times better than I thought you were going to come out with.
Honestly, like, Rotorua, like, for people who don't know, like, Rotorua is like the mecca of mountain biking. Like, it is where they hold like world championship races. And here I am, literally never been on a mountain bike trail before in my life. I honestly couldn't believe they let me on track. It was, it floored me.
Yeah.
Anyway, hot tip: go on a mountain bike trail before you go into a mountain bike race.
Yeah, because an off-road try really means that you're going off the road.
You know, seriously, I thought, like, isn't it so funny? I honestly thought, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
It's just this like, full ignorance is bliss. Anyway, if I'd have known, I probably wouldn't have, honestly, if I'd have realised how hard it was, because I would have been too scared.
Another off-road try since?
Yes, so I have. I went back and I conquered Rotorua. I had to do that. So my husband, or now husband, he's a ex-mountain biker. So when we met, he actually taught me how to mountain bike properly.
Yeah.
We would rate how well the mountain bike session went by how many cries I had. So like a 3-cry ride, pretty good. 6-cry ride, not a great day. Like 2-cry ride, very good day. It's a really, I find mountain biking quite overwhelming because you have to be on all the time. And you have to do things that are completely opposite. Yeah. You have to, when you see a rock, you want to stop because there's a big rock in your way, but actually you have to go harder. Yeah. So it's training your mind to think opposite. So it's a really, really interesting. But so, we went back. We did another, after Andy taught me how to mountain bike, we went to Kalala. They were running Xterras out of Kalala, which is south of New South Wales.
Yep.
And my dad and stepmom and Andy and we all went down to Kalala. We were living in Melbourne at the time, so it was not quite halfway, but it was kind of South Sydney, North Melbourne. And we all met there and we had a weekend and we all raced Xterra Kalala together. And my stepmom and I qualified for world champs. And so I think I was second. And so I qualified for world champs, and my dad was like, well, if we're going to do this world champs thing, like, I want to do it too. So then he spent the rest of the year chasing Xterra events to try and qualify so we could race world champs together.
Yeah.
And the world champs were in Maui, and it was like a week after Kona. And my dad and stepmom actually have a place in Maui, and so it meant it kind of logistically was a bit easier to kind of do it. Yeah. And so we got to, my dad and I and my stepmom got to all race world championships of Xterra World Champs in Maui together. So that was actually, it was so cool. And, you know, I have massive imposter syndrome, and when I showed up at that event, I was like, I should not be here. Andy took me on a course recce, and I cried. And I was just like, I can't do this. I shouldn't be here. Everyone else is so good. Just one. So it was a good ride. It was a good ride. But, you know, you just get all of those fears, like, I shouldn't be here. My goal was to be top 10. And I'm like, what a ridiculous goal. I can't believe I ever thought I could be this. Look at all these people. They're so fit and they're so, you know, strong and everything. But then, like, race day came around, and that race was super cool because that was the first race that I ever beat my dad. And his view was always that, like, he has done his job when we are better than him. When we can teach him something and we can, you know, we can pass him, or we can do something he can't. Like, he saw his job as done, and, you know, it was a big tick to him. So I remember passing him at like 5K on the run at an aid station, and he was just so stoked for me and so proud. And so it was super cool to, like, have him, cross the finish line not far after me. And I ended up, I think I can't remember what I was top 10 though. Like, I did make top 10 in the end. And I was, you know, not as out of my depth as I thought I was, which was super cool. Though.
Big news time. We have a big brand new sponsor for the Wellness League podcast. So, can you guess who it is?
Hi, I'm Lana from Live and Breathe Active, or LAB, a small family-run business run by a group of passionate people that, well, we live and breathe this shit. Whether it's run, swim, cycle, or try, we make gear to get you through those tough training sessions. We help you get up before sunrise, and we will still be there with you well after sunset. You will see us before you hear us, with bespoke prints designed by artists just for you. We are driven by our values and are focused on performance and community. And we are super proud to be partnering with the Wellness League podcast in the Try series. Find out more or shop online at liveandbreatheactive.com. We can't wait to have you as part of the crew.
How good is that, hey? Discount codes and the link will be in the bio. But you know what? Let's go back to the pod.
So yeah, I've gone back and I feel like I conquered it. So
yeah, definitely.
I've actually done some mountain bike racing too since then. So I've done some cross country mountain bike racing, and I did some enduro racing as well, which was super cool.
So making the switch,
you know, it's totally out of your comfort zone.
On-road try, how much easier is that now?
You know, it's different. I don't really think they're comparable because, you know, I don't know. I'm the kind of person who I don't like a flat course. I like a hilly course because, particularly on the bike, because to me, like, I get bored and I get in my head and I can't concentrate properly. Like, I like the constant, like, up and down and, you know, thinking about what I'm doing. And with, I suppose, road triathlons, I really try and meditate almost, which sounds a bit weird, but I really try to concentrate on exactly what my body is doing and at that exact moment, like feeling my legs pull and push on the pedals and listening to my breathing and concentrate on how I'm feeling about my breathing and, like, pulling my shoulders back and how's my position, trying to be super duper in tune in the moment with my body. And I find when I do that, and even when I'm swimming, I'm literally like, I do a lot of counting when I'm racing and training. I literally, when I'm swimming in the ocean and I'm a bit scared, I will count to 100 strokes. I'll be like, Lana, just do 100 strokes and we'll reevaluate where we're at in 100 strokes. And bringing it all back to how my body's feeling, and like feeling the catch in my stroke and feeling my breath going out, and everything calms me a lot and helps me to focus on exactly what I'm doing. And so I definitely get a lot more of that in the road tries, especially the really long stuff, which like I prefer the longer stuff. I'm not built for sprinting. So I like the longer stuff for sure. I can slog it out.
Did you start with 70.3 races then, or did you go straight into the long ones?
No, I started, like I did a few like sprint stuff where like I basically, I don't know, I was one of those people that if people like in corporate tries and stuff, if someone I knew had a team in a corporate try and someone dropped out and they needed someone, they'd call me up because I was the kind of person that they thought, well, she'd be able to do it. And I've got this really terrible thing that I do as a side note, like a real interesting thing in my psyche. And I hear myself doing it and I'm like, shut up, Lana. So anyway, I have this full pre-race.
Yep.
I go through this full wave of like emotion where I start with, I don't belong here, full imposter syndrome, looking at everyone who looks so skinny and so fit and so strong and all of these things. I'm like, oh, I don't belong here. Like they've got this fancy bike and I don't, or they've got this or they've got that and I'm just not good enough. And then something in me flicks and it's like in the exact moment. And then I get into this like, I'm going to tear down everyone. You are nothing. I can beat you. I'm going to. And so this happened in one of these corporate tries I was doing. I knew no one. I was racing in this like Ernst & Young team or something. And I'm sitting at their tent and I get this like, so it's this like flick to this like super overly cocky. And we're watching all these guys, teams go off in Sydney Harbour, little swim, it's like a, I don't know, 200-meter swim or something. And I was chatting and I say to this group of people who I've never met before in my life, I'm going to win the swim. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, legitimately I will. And they're like, it's mixed. It's not just chicks. I'm like, I know. I will win it. And they're like, let's make a wager on this. I'm like, let's go. And so they're like, $10 if you win the swim. I'm like, done. Let's go. Up it to 20. I just like get stupid. And I'm listening to myself. I'm like, shut up, Lana. Shut up. Stop talking. Anyway. So I started this like silly corporate try with this like ridiculous amount of pressure I put on myself with all these people watching who don't even know me because I've upped myself, like I've just ridiculously told everyone that I'm going to do this thing. Anyway, luckily I did win the swim that time. So I earned myself $20. Again, the bike and run were a totally different thing, but I did manage to just pip everyone in that swim. So that was lucky. But so I did a few of those little like corporate tries where people wanted me to come in and help.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to sign up to a 70.3. So I signed up to 70.3 Geelong. And we did like a sprint try or a classic distance try or something down in, we were living in Melbourne. So at the sprint series they've got down there.
Yeah.
So I did one of those. And then, trained up for 70.3 Geelong. It was horrendous weather. It was
it's Melbourne, like
40 degrees at 5 a.m. Yeah, it was ridiculous. 40 degrees at 5 a.m. Howling wind, super hot wind. The bay was completely whipped up. Which was fine by me. It was like a washing machine, but like for me that was fine because I've done a lot of ocean swimming and stuff, so I was fine with it. Andy was still trying to impress me, so he did sign up for that event as well. That was, I think, the only triathlon he's ever done as a, mountain biker. So he's not a super strong swimmer. He's thick in the swim. He swallowed so much water. I got out of the swim, got onto the bike, and I was like, it was like a 2-lap course. So I go out and I'm like, I need to slow down. I'm going way too fast. Like, I need to slow myself down. I've got a long way to go. Like, pace yourself, Lana. A lot of self-talk. So I slow myself right down. And then I turn around and realize that I had a tailwind. And now I'm going into a headwind.
Oh.
I was just like, I am such an idiot. Like, I just wasn't a very experienced cyclist to realize that I had this amazing tailwind. So that's why I was going 40k an hour. It wasn't because I'm capable of riding at that speed. Anyway, the second lap was super hard. Everyone was suffering. Like, you know those big orange bollards that like stop cars from like entering races and stuff? They were flying across the road. Jesus. And there were people in space blankets littered all over the median strip. They'd run out of water at all the aid stations. It was honestly like a war scene. I mean, I can't really say that because I've never experienced that, but that's what it felt like. There were just people everywhere, bodies everywhere. I don't know. It probably should have been. It had that year the highest dropout of any Ironman branded race worldwide that year. It was just horrific weather. I got to about 80k on the bike, got off the bike, threw my guts up and was just like, I don't know if I can go on, and start like, you know, self-talk, common liner, like 10k, you ride this to work, put your head down, just go as hard as you can for 10k and you'll be off the bike and you'll be done. You can go into the run. So I put my head down and I like pedal for what feels like forever. And I realized I look down, I'm like, hell, I will have been like 5k in by now and I've like done 800 meters. And then this girl on a mountain bike with like no clip-ins on, like with loose shorts, rode past me, and that fired me up. That was the only thing that could get me out of that hole. I'm like, I've got to follow her. I can't, like, I can do this. Anyway, I got off the bike and onto the run. And again, like, I felt quite good because I had this little rest on the side of the road and I had a pretty good run. Andy and I were racing and I pipped him at the post. So that's all that really mattered. But it was like, I can't remember the time, but it was, you know, like a 6 hour plus 70.3. And certainly not what I thought I would be doing. So that was my first, like, you know, almost first. It's amazing that I continued with this stuff, right?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Sucker for punishment. But yeah, after that, I just decided I could do better, and I got a coach. I went to a couple of coaches. I did Port Macquarie as my next 70.3, and I did like an hour and a half PB.
That's
I think
crazy.
I did 5:06 at Port Mac, and I was second in my age group. And because one girl didn't rack her bike, there was only one world champ spot and I missed it. And you know who got it? Emma Quinn. And she passed me at like, I don't know, 15k into the run. And I knew she was in my age group and I tried to chase her down, but she is such a strong runner and I could not stay with her. And she was chatting to this guy she was running with. So I'm like desperately trying to keep up with her, and she's having a chat, talking about how she's just had a baby.
Oh my God.
Talk about mind games. But so I was obviously disappointed I missed that spot, but you know, she's a pretty awesome chick to come second to. So
that's crazy. You talked about that race in the pod as well.
Yeah. And I remember she applied to be a Catfish athlete. And I called her and we had a chat on the phone, and she was like, Lana, I have to tell you something. Like, I'm the girl who took the spot for world. So I'm like, I know, and that's okay.
So did you become
she did. Yeah, she did. I'm like, if you can beat me, you're in.
So from there, did you race?
Yeah, so that like
70.3s?
Sorry?
Or did you go into a full distance?
Yeah, I did. After that, I think I went into full. I did Ironman Cairns, and honestly, that was so good. I had the best race. Like, I know, like, you're not meant to say that about Ironman, but I had the best time. Yeah. And so much of that is that I was just incredibly well prepared. Like, my coach did such a phenomenal job. I was being coached by Scotty Farrell from T0 Multisport, and it was Emma Quinn who recommended him to me. Because I was doing some off-road stuff as well, and I did some off-road stuff, and then ended up going into Ironman, and he just prepared me so well not just physically. Like, I think so much of getting to the start line of an Ironman or any race really is getting there in one piece. If you can survive the training, you can definitely survive like the day.
Yeah.
But mentally, he just totally mentally prepared me. I'm sure it was completely intentional, but it never felt like he was. He never said, and this is what you need to think about when you're doing this. He just, his coaching was so good and so tailored and so thoughtful that every session had a purpose. He didn't tell me necessarily when I look back on it, he was really preparing me for that deep, dark spot that you go to, which I never hit. So I kept waiting. I had an okay swim. I thought I would be faster, but it was pretty tough conditions. I still won my age group, so I figured that's fine. But I thought I'd be like 10 minutes faster. Then the bike is for me always about like maintaining, because it's really difficult when you're a swimmer that mentally having everyone passing you all the time, because there are a lot of really strong men who, aren't strong swimmers, but they're phenomenal cyclists. And it just honestly feels like everyone is passing you all the time. So you've really got to be disciplined in racing your own race and not getting caught up in that and not feeling that, I suppose. So my plan for the bike was to power, but my power meter ran out of battery that morning. So I get on the bike and I've got no power data.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, that's okay. Like, I've done a lot of training with power. I know what it feels like to ride with that power. So, and all the advice that my coach had given me was on the side of easier. Like, if you're unsure, go easier on the bike. So I vibed it on the bike and I bang on hit my goal time. I did 6 hours on the bike. Yeah. And that was exactly what I'd hoped and dreamed I could possibly do. Actually, I think I was a couple of minutes over it. But what it meant was I was so fresh for the run because I didn't turn myself inside out on the bike.
Yeah.
And I almost think it was a blessing in disguise having lost that power, because I did err on the side of a bit easier. And I ended up doing a marathon PB at the end of my Ironman. And I walked. I walked my Ironman marathon and I did a PB. And I just think, to me, that is like, that's the secret sauce. Like, anyone out there starting to run and starting to do this endurance stuff, walking is where it's at, and it's not cheating. When it's intentional, it is so valuable and so useful.
Oh, absolutely.
I felt like I'd unlocked something. Like, I never knew about this. Like, you just had to slog all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a really great Ironman, and I just had so much fun out there. And I think I did like 11 hours 13 as my Ironman debut, and I'm stoked with that time as a first time, and I felt great. And I had a really great day, and I think I negative split the marathon too. Like, I was just stoked. I just had the best time. Yeah. And Cairns is so great for that, because there's so many people around, and you get high fives all the time, and it was awesome. So I'd really love to do another Ironman, but it's just really tricky. It's a huge time commitment for training. When George is older, I think. But I think I'd suit that distance a bit better.
Bring on the family tradition of racing with your daughter.
I know, gosh. I wonder what she'll be like. Anyway.
Well, don't they say the older you get into, like, when you're racing Ironman, the more spots there are for, like, for, like, the finals and stuff? Do you know what I mean? Because less people are racing age group.
Yeah, probably.
You got higher chance of getting to Kona.
Well, that's it. You just gotta age out everyone else. All you got to do is keep your body together for that long.
Yeah.
That's all.
Or just know how to use the duct tape.
Yeah, exactly. Get a really, really good physio.
Yeah. So have you raced in then?
We'll see. Yeah, so I after Cairns Ironman, Andy and I went on a celebratory bike packing trip in Italy. And so we spent 2 weeks bike packing around the Dolomites in Italy, where we literally took like a bag this big, and we had one kit, one pair of shoes, one pair of undies, one t-shirt, one pair of ties. That's it.
Yeah.
And we washed our kit in the shower every night. We took turns in whose turn it was to wash kit. And it was amazing. It was one of the best trips we've ever done. Like, it was so awesome. And again, like, my dad and stepmom had done a trip like it, and we were really inspired by what they'd done, and we wanted to give it a crack. And I thought, well, I'm already fit, so like, what a good time to do it. And we mapped out our own route. We just organised it all ourselves. We booked like Airbnbs along the way. We aimed to ride like 80 or 100K a day. It would be like 1 or 2 passes, depending on like how big the passes were. Yeah, so it was kind of, you know, bike packing, but we were staying in accommodation, despite riding like, I don't know, how almost like 2,000 kilometers over 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and like a crazy amount of elevation. We put weight on because every morning there was a buffet breakfast, and we're like, well, we're riding all day. We'll have croissants, we'll have like cheese, and we'll have, you know, ham, and then we get like 10 minutes down the road and we're like, coffee, someone would have coffee. And then on like the very first pass we did, there was this group of Italian guys at the top, and at the top of all these passes have like huts, and they serve food and stuff. Yeah. And so this group of 3 Italian guys, 2 of them had like coffees, and the third guy, who was my spirit animal, he had a beer and a bowl of pasta. And I'm like, you know what's going on. And so that was our tradition. So when we got to the top of a pass, we'd get a beer and a bowl of pasta, and then we'd ride down to our accommodation.
That sounds like the dream.
Yeah, that's how we put weight on, doing 2,000 kilometers. It was amazing, honestly. And then some days we were really fast because like we had more downhill than we expected or whatever. And so we'd get to the accommodation and we couldn't check in yet. And so we'd have to have aperitivo. And so we would get some Aperol spritzers and some pizza. Yeah, it was amazing. We had the best time. Actually, we got engaged as well when we were over there. So nothing like washing each other's kits for 2 weeks.
Did you do that in the middle? Did you get down on one knee at the top of one of the mountains, or?
No, the plan, he said the plan was at the top of Stelvio Pass, which is like the highest mountain pass in Europe or something. Yeah. So that was his plan, but we had a rest day in this cute little village called San Virgilio de Moretti, which I'm probably saying terribly because I'm not Italian. And we were at dinner in this like, I know the best way to describe this restaurant, it was like a farmhouse, and we were sitting outside and like picnic kind of tables. And the kitchen was like a stone makeshift oven-y thing outside. Yeah. And the menu wasn't like starters, mains, blah, blah, blah. It was 1 kilometre, 5 kilometres, 20 kilometres. And that's how far the food has been sourced from. Right. And so 1 kilometre was food that was all prepared and made and grown on the farm. And 5 kilometres was within the same valley, and 20 kilometres was within the like county.
That's so cool.
Like, it was just a super cool place. And we went on this like zip lining thing, and everyone was really confused about where we were from because they didn't understand. We're like, oh, we're from Australia. They thought we were German. And we're like, no, we're from Australia. And they're like, why are you here? Why would you come here? That's such a strange place to go. It's this like random little village in the middle of Italy. Anyway, we were sitting at dinner, and we just finished dinner, and we were just having a really nice time. And he just, no fuss, just across the kind of table said, so will you marry me? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So it was pretty, uneventful. He's like, I actually have a ring, but I didn't bring it because I was too terrified that I would, have, a problem, losing it, or we had such little stuff with us that he didn't want to lose it or for me to find it. It was really good. Anyway, so it was cool because we had like a week and a half or 2 weeks after the holiday, and we got to just be engaged together, and no one else knew, and we could just, I don't know, be together and everything. It was nice. It was really cool.
That's so cute.
So that was part 1 of my chat with Lana. Come back next Wednesday to hear my part 2 chat with Lana. We chatted all things about the business turning from Catfish to Live and Breathe and the huge plans that Lana has got for the future. So come back next week for part 2. A big thank you for Live and Breathe for sponsoring this podcast. I've been testing out their running shorts and believe it or not, they are amazing. I have had so many problems with chafing with shorts and especially with running. And ever since I've got my Live and Breathe shorts, I've never had a problem. So go and buy yourself a pair at TWLPOD15. That will also be in the show notes. That's Live and Breathe. You know what? While you're there, why don't you go and check out the Try Me series this Friday? We're talking everything the mental side of racing and training. But while you're there, go and check out last week's episode where we teamed up with Tim from Tim and Amanda at TriFit. And he talked us all through the basic bike maintenance everybody needs. Well, thank you for listening today. Much appreciate you staying around. Hope you enjoyed this pod. Please share it with a friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget to go and follow us on all of our social media pages at the Wellness League Pod. And if you want more of me, at discovering_ET. And, come back next week and listen to some more. Have a wonderful day. Have the best week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.